If there are more than two alternatives to be selected, multiple selection construct is used, that is switch statement. If the expression is matches with the label 1, then statement 1 will going to execute. So when we are executing this switch statement, it will going to make a comparison between the test condition with the label. Hello everybody, welcome back to the session 2 on chapter 10, that is control statements. I am Rohini TS from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Mysuru. In the first session of this chapter, that is what introduction part of the control statement, I have discussed regarding the introduction part. That means why we require this control statement, then how it is categorized. So that is what regarding the introduction. So as we all know that control statements are mainly used in order to alter the flow of information or in order to alter the sequence of flow of information of a statements in a program. That is what we require control statements. And also I have discussed regarding the types of control statements. How many types of control statements we have? That is what 3 types. So it will going to have selection statement and iterative statement or iteration statement. Then it has a jump statement. So in the previous session of this chapter, I have discussed regarding the first type, that is what selection statements. So under that we have if statement, if-else statement, and we have nested if statement. Also, along with that we have switch statement, right? So, but in the previous session of this chapter, I have discussed regarding the if statement, if-else statement along with a nested if statement. So, we are left out with the switch statement. So, that is what we are going to learn in today's session. So, that is what switch statement. So, then it will going to complete the selection statement or a conditional statement. So, next we have a second type of control statement, that is what iteration statement. So, under that we have a while statement, do while statement as well as the for loop or a while statement. So, in today's session, we are going to learn regarding this while statement as well as the do while statement, and I am going to discuss regarding the comparison or a difference between these while statement as well as the do while statement. So, we'll see the switch statements right now. So, before getting into the switch statement, you just recall why we require if statement and if-else statement and nested if statement. So, if you consider if statement, that is what one-way branching, and that means based on the condition, it will going to execute the statement or not. That is what if statement. And if we consider if-else statement, there will be 2 possibilities is there. So, if the condition holds good or if the condition is true, then several set of statements will going to be executed. If the condition is false, then another set of statement will going to be executed. That is what two-way branching, that is regarding if-else statement. But what if I wanted to have more than one option? What if I wanted to select among the multiple option? That is what we are going to have this switch statement. So mainly this switch statement is also called as multi-way branching. So there will be one condition and I have an n number of options. So I have a n number or multiple number of options. So when my condition matches with any one of the option here, then it will going to execute that particular block of a statement. That is what this switch statement will going to do. So we'll see the definition of this switch statement. So you can call this switch statements as a multiple branch selection statement. So in a C++ programming, it is what inbuilt multiple selection statement. That is what we are going to call that as a switch statement. Then why this switch statement is used, when it will be used, and how it will be used. So here you can see that if there are more than 2 alternatives to be selected, I have many number of options, I have many number of alternatives. So based on my condition or based on my scenario or a test condition, we are going to make a choice. So that is what with this switch statements will going to help out. So, if there are more than 2 alternatives to be selected, multiple selection construct is used, that is switch statement. Okay. So, for that purpose, we are going to use this switch statement. So, now we'll see the syntax of this switch statement. So, syntax is nothing but what its general form. So, here switch of expression. So, here switch is what? Keyword. So, as we all know that we can't change the meaning of a keyword because each keyword has a specific meaning to the compiler. So, we can't change that. So every keyword has to be in the lower case. So we are not supposed to use uppercase or a combination of those two. It's supposed to be in the lower case all the time. So that switch off, within the parenthesis, I'm writing an expression. So then what is this expression is all about? So we can take any test condition. I can have what mathematical combination or mathematical logic or any of the expression, algebraic expression, or we can give any of the condition. Okay, so that will going to be based on the requirement of a user. So within the parenthesis, so you can see that within the opening and closing of a parenthesis, we are supposed to write the expression. After that, we have opening and closing of a flower brace. That is what pair of curly braces that indicates whatever the statement that we are writing here, everything is belongs to this switch statement. So in order to make a group of all the statements as a single looping statement, then we are going to use this opening and closing of a flower brace. That is what pair of curly braces. So next, you can see that case label 1. So what is this case and label? So let me tell you one thing. So I have a condition. Okay, so let me consider I have condition. For example, if I am going to get my percentage which is greater than 90%, then I have several options. I have several options like first option is what? My first choice, I can go with BE, or I'm going to take the degree as my second option, and C3, I'm going to do my stuffs which is based on my interest. That means what? Here we have more than one alternative, but based on the scenario or based on the expression or a condition that and all I have specified, based on that, I'm going to make a choice of any one of the cases. I'm not going to select all the cases. Instead of that, we have to make a choice of only one cases. So here we are specifying 1, 2, 3. That is what possibilities, different scenarios, different situation. That is what the label is all about. So if my expression is matching with this label 1 or a expression case 1, then I'm going to execute this statement. If it is okay, then I won't come further. I will join this B and I won't come further to the next cases. So if none of the cases is matching with my condition, at that time what we are going to do? So we are just going to have a default statement. So if none of the condition or if none of the cases is matching with my expression, then by default we are going to execute the default statement. That is how we are going to use this switch statement 2. So here case is what? That represent what is the scenario, and label that represents whether this expression is matching with this variable or a constant. So here label can be constant. So I can take case 1, case 2, case 3 up to n number of cases. So if expression is matching with the label 1, then I am going to execute a set of statement or a statement which is belongs to this label 1. So that is what we are indicating colon. Okay, most of you we are going to write it as like this, but it should be only colon. Okay, so that indicates whatever the statement we have here, that is belongs to this label. If the expression is matches with the label 1, then statement 1 will going to execute. So once my statement 1 get executed, I should not come further. I have to come out of the loop. I have to move out of the loop. That is what the reason we are having break here. So break will going to allow me in order to come out of the loop. That is what the reason we have to use break in all the labels. We have to use break in all the cases. Okay, until it reaches to the default statement. Next, case label 2. So if my expression is matching with my case 2, then statement 2 will going to execute, then break, and we can have n number of labels along with the n number of statements. So if none of the cases is matching with my expression, then what I am supposed to do as a user? I have to execute default statement. So if none of the cases is matching here, then we are going to have a default option. Then it will going to execute default statement. Then we are going to execute either the specified cases or default statement by default. Then it will come out of the loop and it will going to execute the further lines of a program. So now we'll see the flow chart of the switch statement. First, in the entry, we are going to check for the condition. I have a multiple options here. So if my expression is matching with my label 1, I'm checking. Expression is matching with my label 1. If it is true, then statement 1 will going to execute. So if my expression is matching with my label 2, if it is yes, statement 2 will going to execute. But one more thing, if expression is matched with my label 1, then I won't come for the label 2. I will come out of the loop and I am going to execute the further statements of a program. That you have to remember. And we can have n number of labels, n number of cases. None of the statement or a cases is not matching with my expression, then by default we are going to have a default statement that will going to be executed. Okay, this is for the flowchart of this switch statement. So here I am taking an example to find the name of the day given the day number. So we have to give the day number as an input. So corresponding to that, it will going to find what is the day value. That means if I am going to put 1, then it will going to consider that as a Sunday. So as we all know that we have a 7 days in a week. So if I am going to put 1 as a value, then Sunday. 2 is considered as Monday. So at last 7 it has to return the Saturday as the resultant. So then how we are going to implement this scenario in the switch statement, we'll see now. So here what we have, so first switch is a keyword here. Within that test condition, I'm taking day number. So as we all know that this is a test condition or expression. So here I have to put any value. So day number is a value that is constant. We have to give some value to that expression or a constant. So after that, it will going to open the flat braces. Then as we all know that the syntax of this switch statement, there we have a case that represents the possibilities, which we are going to compare with the test condition. So here, and we have a label. So label can be any constant value or label can be any character. So here we are taking only numbers. So if I am taking numbers, no need of taking single quote. But if I am taking character, for example, if it is like case A or case B, at this time, this is mandatory to have this single quote because I can't take any of the character without single quote. Then that cannot be considered as a character. Then we are not able to make a comparison. So that is what the reason. But here we are taking only numbers instead of taking single quote. That means no need to take the single quote here for the numbers. So case 1. So in that label is a 1 and we have a set of statements in the label 1. That means after the colon, whatever we have as a statement that belongs to that case 1. So see out Sunday and end L, that is end of a line. So as we all know that we have to put break. What is the usage of this break in the switch statement? That will going to take me out of the loop. So break statements are used in order to come out of the loop. So here once I am going to execute this Sunday, I should not come to any other line of this code. So that is what the reason we have to take break in each case. So case 2, see out Monday, NDL break. So this will going to continuous up to 7th state. After that, if none of the cases is matching with my test condition, then we are going to have this default value. So in the default value, it has one statement called invalid day number. For example, so I have to give the range between 1 to 7. But if I am giving the value which is greater than 7 or which is not in the cases, then it will going to execute this default statement. And you can ask that why we are not using break. Anyway, if none of the condition is true, then it will come to the default. Whether it is true or false, it will going to execute. At last, it has to come out of the loop. So that no need to have this break statement in the default. So now let me take one example. So consider day number as 5. Okay. So I am taking the day number as 5. So here the number will be 5. Then it will going to check with all the cases. So it will going to check with all the label mainly. So here case 1 is 5 is equal to 1. Is 5 is equal to 1? It's false. That means 5 is not equal to 1. Next comes to the case 2. Is 5 is equal to 2? False. Then it will come to the case 3. Then it will check. Is 5 is equal to 3? No, it is false. Again, is 5 is equal to 4? No. Then 5 is equal to 5. Whether it is true or false? 5 is equal to 5. Yes, 5 is equal to 5. Then it becomes true. Then it will going to display the statement like see out Thursday. So whatever we have in a see out within double quotes, that will be considered as a statement. Then in the output screen, it will going to give Thursday as an output. And when it encounters the break, it will come out of the loop and it won't execute any of the other statement which is in the switch statement. Okay. So this is one example and I'm going to take A. So for the day number, I am going to take A. So at that time, it will going to matches with all the cases. So is A is equal to 1? No. Is A is equal to 2? And it will going to do up to A is equal to 7. But all the cases are false here. All the cases are not true. All the cases are false for my test condition. At that time, by default, it will going to execute the default statement. What is that? Invalid day number. Whatever the number or a character that I am giving as an input, which is of invalid. Okay. So same way, I am going to take 10. But 10 is not in the label. That is 10 is not among any of the cases here. Then only it will going to execute this default statement. So you can consider this as an example for switch statement. So next we'll see what are the rules is we have to follow when we are using this switch statement. So when I am dealing with the syntax of switch statement, then only I have discussed. So here you can see the some of the rules which needs to be obeyed when we are using this switch statement. So here each case value must be unique with a switch statement. So whatever I am taking as a case. So if you consider the previous example, here I cannot take case 1, case 1, case 1 like that. That means it has to be unique in nature. Whatever the label value we are going to take, everything must be unique. That is the first rules of this switch statement. So after the word case, a space is given. Then the label we are going to use, that label can be any values like a constant, variable or a character. That and all we can give, and that needs to be followed by colon. So that is what you can see here. Case, after that you need to put one space, then label value, then we are going to use colon. So next we have all the cases must be enclosed in the curly braces. So here you can see the example. All the cases are enclosed between the opening and closing of a flower braces. Whatever the cases we have, n number of cases we can have. So every cases must be within that curly braces. What about next point? So when we are executing this switch statement, it will going to make a comparison between the test condition with the label. So which label is going to match with the test condition? At that time, whatever the statement is there in that label will going to be executed. That is what corresponding set of statements will going to be executed of a particular label or constant. So if none of the label is matching with my test condition, at that time default statement will going to be executed, and it is mandatory to have break statement after each case statement. Why? Because it has to terminate the loop. So if I am going to get the true value for the label 1, then it should not go to the label 2 or a case 2. So in order to avoid that interruption, we have to put break statement. So it will going to take the loop out of the control. So these are all the rules we have to follow when we are using this switch statement in our program. Okay, I hope you all understood with the selection statement. So next we have a second type, that is what? Iterative construct or a looping. So iterative construct or a looping. If you consider the conditional statements and all, so there we are going to execute several set of statements based on some test condition. So if the condition is true, then we are going to do something. If the condition is false, we are going to do something. What if I wanted to execute same set of statements more than one time? What if I wanted to repeat the execution of a several set of statements more than one time? Then we are going to use this iterative construct or a looping construct. So looping is nothing but we are going to execute several set of statements again and again until the condition is true. So when the condition becomes false, we will come out of the loop. So that is what the thing that we are going to use in this iterative construct or a looping. So iterative statements or the statement that are used to repeatedly execute. I just wanted to execute a set of statements or a sequence of statement repeatedly. Then we are going to use this iterative or a looping construct. So here also we are going to deal with a condition. If the condition is false or if the condition is true, based on that we are going to make a execution of a statement. So iterative statements are the set of statements that are used repeatedly in order to execute sequence of statements until some condition is satisfied or given number of times. So it will be based on the number of times that we have specified or the based on the condition we are going to execute several set of statements. And this definition is also important for 1 mark question. And complete looping or iterative construct is also important for 5 mark question as well. Then what we are going to call this process? So what if I am going to repeatedly executing a several set of statements more than one time or a particular number of time? Then what is that process is meant about? So the process of repeated execution of a sequence of statement until some condition is satisfied will going to be called as iteration, and it is also called as repetitions or a looping. So we have a synonyms for this: iterative construct. So we are executing several set of statements in number of times. So that process is called as what? Looping or a repetition, and it is also considered as what? Iterative statements or iterations. Then iterative statements are also called as repetitive statements or a looping statements. So when you get in examination about the repetitive statements or iterative or a looping, all are same. Okay, then what are the types we have in this iterative statements? So in the C++, totally we have 3 types of a looping structure or looping statements. So that includes while loop, do while loop, and it has for loop. So these are the 3 types of iterative statements or a repetitive statements or a looping statement. So as we all know that if I consider either selection statement or if I consider iterative statement, everything is what? We are going to execute some set of statement based on some condition. Then here in the while statement, how we are going to select this condition or how we are going to evaluate the condition. So that is what about this while statement. So I just wanted to execute set of statement or number of statements to be executed repeatedly until some condition is getting satisfied. So in the while statement, this is also called as pre-tested loop structure. So that means what? I have some condition. I'm just going to check the condition first. If this condition is true, then only I'm going to allow the number of statements or a set of instruction to be executed. So that is what it is called as pre-tested loop structure. First, we are going to test the condition. That is the main point. This structure checks the condition at the beginning of the structure. When we are checking the condition, initial part only. That is also called as what? Entry condition loop. So entry control loop we can say. So if you wanted to execute some of the statement or a set of statement, first I am going to check for the condition. If the condition is true, then only I am going to allow the statement to get executed. So that is also known as what? Pre-tested loop, and it will going to check for the condition at the beginning of a structure itself. The set of statements are executed again and again until the condition is true. So when I am going to execute the number of statement, whenever the condition is true for all the time, until that I am going to execute. What if I am going to get the condition as a false? Then it will come out of the loop. Okay, so once the condition become false, once the condition is not satisfying with the test condition that we are giving, then statement will not going to execute. It will come out of the loop. That is what this while loop is all about. So here you can see the syntax. While of test condition. So while is a keyword here, and test condition is nothing but, that is we are going to use some constants or we are going to use some of the expression. So it can be anything. So that is what main condition that we are giving. And we have a opening and closing of a flat braces. So within that I have n number of statements. What is the thing that we have to remember regarding this while statement? First, we are going to check the condition. So in the while is a keyword. That means I am checking if the test condition is true, then only I am going to execute this number of statements again and again. Again I will come back, I am going to check the condition. What if the test condition become false? Then it will come out of the loop and it won't execute any of the statements, So that is regarding what? While statement. So let me take one example. Here, first let me initialize I is equal to 1. Okay, so the initial value of I is 1, which is of the data type integer. So while is a keyword, and within the parenthesis I have to take the condition. So let me consider I is lesser than or equal to 3. Okay, then let me take this statement cout high. Okay, and here I need to increment I. So these are the two statements which belongs to this while statement. So as we all know that initial value of I is 1. So what we have in the while statement, while I is lesser than or equal to 3. What is the value of I? That is 1. Is 1 is lesser than or equal to 3. Is it true or false? It is true. If it is true, then only we are going to execute several set of statements. So that is what it will going to execute cout statement in the output screen, that is high. Then it will going to increment the I by 1. Already we have discussed regarding this post increment, that is what I plus plus. If I value is 1, 1 plus and another plus is nothing but 1 itself. So now I value is 2. Okay, so in the first iteration I value as 1. So now let me consider I value as 2. Again I am come here and I will check the condition again. So now 2 is lesser than or equal to 3. Is 2 is lesser than or equal to 3? Again it is true. If it is true, it will come here and it will going to execute the statement one more time. Now again I got the high. Then I is what 2. Now it will be incremented to next one. That is what it will become 3 now. I value is 3. Is 3 is lesser than or equal to 3? Is 3 is lesser than or equal to 3? Yes, it is 3. That is what it is true. That means 3 is not lesser than 3, but it is equal to 3. So that we are going to consider this as a true statement. Again, high will going to be executed. And I will going to be incremented by 1. It was 3. 3 plus 1 become 4 now. 4 is lesser than or equal to 3. Again, I am checking the condition here. Is I is lesser than or equal to 3? Is 4 is lesser than or equal to 3? No, it become false. So when it become false, it won't execute all these statements. It will come out of the loop and it will going to execute the further statements of a program. Okay, this is how while statement will going to work. So in the beginning of a condition, in the beginning of a while statement only we are checking for the condition. If the condition is true, then only I am going to allow the user to execute the several set of statement. If the condition become false, we won't execute anything. It will directly come out of the loop. Okay, so this is what the syntax as well as the example. So now we'll see the flow chart. First is condition. That means I'm checking the condition. If condition is true, that is what T. So if the condition is true, then only I'm going to execute several set of statement. Again, if the condition is true, again I will come here, again I'm going to check. If the condition is true, then again I'm going to execute all these statements again. Then I will go back to condition again. So if the condition become false, at that time we are going to move to the next statement of a program. So this is regarding what? While statement. So now we'll see how this while loop is going to work. That is what the looping structure will going to be as follows. The first condition is tested. First we are going to test the condition. Then if the condition is true, then only set of instructions or a set of statement will going to be executed within the loop. So the condition will going to be tested again and again, and if it is true, then only set of instruction will going to be repeatedly going to be executed. So if the condition become false, then it will come out of the loop and going to execute that statement which is resides inside the loop. Okay, so these are all the rules or these are all the working condition of this while statement. So this is regarding what? Pre-tested. First I have to test a condition, then I have to execute several set of statement. So next we have a second type, that is do while. So what is this do while is all about? This is also considered as post-tested loop structure. So you can understand now. Pre-tested in the sense what? I am going to check for the condition initially. If the condition is true, that is what entry loop is true, entry condition is true, then only I am going to allow for the execution of a statement. But in the post-tested, so first I am going to execute some of the statement, then I am going to check for the condition. So you can take the real-time example here. So if you wanted to enter to any of the theatres and all, first you have to show the tickets. So whether it is e-tickets or a physical one, so you can show it to the person one who is standing there. That is what entry control loop. So he is checking for the condition. If the condition is true, then only he is going to allow you inside the theatre, right? That is what? While statement. So, and we have a do while statement. That is what we are just simply allowing the statement to be executed once. Then I am going to check for the condition. If the condition is true, again I am going to execute the several set of statement. That is post-tested. So, and also you can take one more example. So, once you wanted to join any of the colleges, so in some of the colleges, they are going to conduct what initial test or they are going to conduct some of the examination initially. So if you are passing that examination, or if you have passed that examination, then only they are going to give the seats in their college. That is what while statement. And if I am going to consider do while statement, they are just simply going to allow you in order to take admission in a particular college, and they are going to give the test later. So if you are working well, or if you are studying well, then they are going to keep you. Otherwise, they are going to have a ability to take you out of the college. That means what? Initial condition checking. After that, we have a condition checking at the end of a loop, that is related to while and do while statement. So this do while statement is what? Post-tested loop structure. So initially one time I'm just going to execute a several set of statement, but after the execution of statement I'm just going to check for the condition. If the condition is true, again I'm going to execute that statement again. So if not, then it will come out of the loop. So this structure will going to check for the condition at the end of the structure. So if you consider while, that is what? Beginning of a structure, but here end of the structure we are going to make a checking of a condition. So the set of statements are executed again and again until the condition is true. So how many times we are going to execute? Until the condition is true, then we are going to execute. If the condition become false, then the control will come out of the loop. Okay, so here you can see the syntax. Do is also a keyword here, and opening and closing of a flower braces we have. So within that we have several set of statements. So you can observe that we have a while here. Do while. While is for what? We are checking a condition. So within the parenthesis, I am going to write the test condition. Within the parenthesis, we are going to write test condition. And you have to observe one thing. Here I have a semicolon. But did I use semicolon in the while statement? No, because that is what? Entry control. If I am going to put semicolon over there, it won't come inside the loop itself. But here, if the condition is false, then it has to terminate here itself. That is what the reason we are using this semicolon. Okay, so do, and if this first initially it will not going to check for any condition, it will just going to allow the execution of number of statements one time, then it will come for the while and it will check the test condition. If the condition is true, then only it will allow in order to execute the several set of statements again. If the condition become false, then it won't go further, then it will come to the next line of a program. Okay, this is the syntax, and here you can see the flowchart of a do while. First, I am not at all checking any of the condition. We are simply executing number of statements. So it can have any number of statement. Once the execution of statements get over one time, then at the time I am checking the condition. If the condition is true, again I am going to execute the number of statements again and again. So if the condition become false, then I am going to move to the next statements of a program. Okay, so let me take one example. Same example I am taking do. So before that I have to take the int I is equal to 2. Okay, so do cout hi, then I plus plus, and I am taking while of I less than or equal to 2. At last I have to put semicolon. Okay, so here you can see that I have taken the int I is equal to 2. What is the initial value of I? I am taking I as 2, then do cout hi. So without checking any of the condition, I am just executing the statement cout hi. So let me consider this as an output statement hi. Okay, so this got executed. Again it will come here I plus plus. Initially I value was 2. Now it is incremented by 1. Now my I value become 3. Okay, so now I have a while condition. So within the while I have a condition is I is lesser than or equal to 2. What is the I value right now? 3. Is 3 is lesser than or equal to 2? True or false? It is false. Then it won't execute the statement again. It will just come out of the loop and it will going to execute the further statements of a program. Okay, so whether the condition is true or false, at least one time this number of statement will going to be executed. So we are going to control the condition. We are going to control the execution of a statement at the end of a loop. We are not controlling at the entry point. So this is how the do while will going to work. don't forget to put semicolon after the while statement. I hope you understood with the while as well as the do while. So now we'll see the difference between this while and do while. Very important question in the perspective of your examination for 5 marks. Very important question and most frequently asked question in this chapter. Okay, so write a difference between while and do while. So what is the first thing about this while? So this is what? Pre-tested looping structure. As we all know that it is an entry control loop. So it will going to check for the condition initially, then only it will going to allow. But what about this while do while statement? That is post-tested. We are going to check for the condition at the end. So it tests the given condition at the initial point of a looping structure. Initial is too important here. We are going to check for a condition at the initial point of a looping structure. But in the do while, we are going to check the condition at the end or at the last of a looping structure. So then minimum execution of loop is 0. First, I am going to check for the condition. If the condition is not true, then I am not at all going to execute a statement. Then the execution of a statement will going to be 0. If and only if the condition is false. If it is true, then it will going to execute number of time. But at least or a minimum number of times of execution will be 0. But in the do while, whether it is true or false, the number of statement will going to be executed at least once. So it will going to execute the minimum number of statements or a looping at least once. And here you can see the syntax. So while test condition, whether it is true, then statements are going to execute and we are going to close the while statement. But in the do while statement, it will going to execute n number of statement first, then it will going to check for the condition while test condition and we have a semicolon at end. So you can also take that as a difference between these two. Semicolon is not used. So in the while test condition, I am not going to use the semicolon. If I put semicolon over there, it won't come inside the loop. So okay, but here semicolon is used. Okay, so these are some of the difference between while and do while. What we are going to do if the test condition become true in while or if the test condition become true in do while as well as the false statement. Okay, so you can't consider this as a difference, but we are just writing or we are just make you understand that what we are going to do in a while if the test condition is true and what we are going to do in a do while if the test condition is true as for the false itself. Okay, so if the condition is true, then the body of the loop will going to be executed again and again. Same thing we are going to do with this do while itself. Then what if the condition become false? Here also, if the condition become false in the while statement, then control will comes out of the loop and it will going to execute the next set of statements in a program. Same thing we are going to do in a do while itself. After that, here in the while statement, if the condition is false, so if the condition is not getting satisfied, at that time it will not allow the control to execute the statement. If the condition is false, then we are not at all going to execute the number of statement. Here also, if the condition is false, then it executes the statement once, whether the condition is true or false. But at least one time it will going to execute the number of statement one time and then it will going to terminate it. Okay, if the condition is not getting satisfied in the first testing, then it won't go further. That means it won't execute the several set of statement again, but it will going to execute at least one time in a do while statement. I hope you all understood with the difference between the while as well as the do while. Okay, so we are done with the today's session. So in my next session, I am going to discuss regarding the for loop. So as I told, we have a while statement, do while statement and for loop in the looping construct or a looping statement. We are left out with for loop and I have one more control statement, that is what? Jump statement. So this will be my next session content. I hope you all understood with my today's session. Let me meet you in the next session with a continuation of this chapter itself. Until that, keep learning, keep on growing. Thank you.